Hello and welcome to a special edition of The Big Picture. As 2013 comes to an end, it is time to look back at the year and take stock of the Indian political scene and its highs and lows. The year has seen dramatic happenings on the political front affecting most political parties. The decision of the Congress party to elevate its youth icon Rahul Gandhi to the post of vice president had created a lot of buzz early this year. Thereafter, the decision of the BJP, after much speculation and debate, to anoint the Gujarat Chief Minister Narendra Modi as their prime ministerial candidate electrified its cadres, apart from setting a Rahul Gandhi versus Narendra Modi battle for 2014. Nitish Kumar created a buzz of his own when he walked out of the nearly 1.5-decade-old alliance with the BJP. Following Modi's anointment, even as his betnoir, Lalu Yadav went to jail and got out of it towards the end of the year. Congress, which had its highs when it recaptured Karnataka, however ended on a whimper earlier this month when it lost in all the 4 major states in the assembly elections. This year, in fact, has set the stage for the mega political battle for the 16th Lok Sabha elections in 2014. We will look at all the highs and lows of this year with Nilotpal Basu, Central Committee member of the CPIM, Professor Balveer Arora, Chairman of the Center for Multilevel Federalism, and Vinod Sharma, political editor of the Hindustan Times, will be on the phone line. Welcome to all of you. Vinod, I would like to come to you first. Vinod, the high on which Congress started, let us look at Congress first. The high on which Congress started this year with Rahul Gandhi being made the vice president of the party, towards the end of the year, all that excitement and buzz seems to have completely dissipated.
Well, of course, I think that, they had lost in the 4 state assembly elections, the 4 major states, barring the northeastern state where they won, was a major blow to their plans for 2014. There can be no two opinions about this. But, in my view, the real high of these elections, of these 2013, perhaps was the rise of the Aam Aadmi Party,
yes,
which you failed to mention in your opening remark.
Right.
I think that is what we'll be continue to hear until 2014 elections and even beyond.
Right.
But insofar as the Congress is concerned, Congress needs to deeply introspect. Congress needs to redefine itself, rediscover itself, and become more relevant to the young people.
Yes.
They believe Rahul would represent.
In fact, as you rightly said, the Aam Aadmi Party, the emergence of Aam Aadmi Party is the high of 2013, and the way the Congress has ended itself in this year is the new low for the Congress party. Professor Balveer Arora, please stay back. Vinod, I'll come back to you. Professor Balveer Arora, when we look at this high is obviously the Aam Aadmi Party, which has redefined how politics is played in this country. You think that when the year started, Aam Aadmi Party was nowhere in the picture. And towards the end, it has suddenly, all eyes are on it. They have changed the way the political paradigm of this country has been changed. Do you agree with that?
Well, when the year started, the Aam Aadmi Party was not there. But I think the main event, which is also one of the high, was the very high degree of involvement of young people in socio-political causes.
Right.
And so you had the mobilization around sexual harassment,
right,
and you had the mobilization around corruption.
Right.
And it is
all that turned into a political thing. When we look at the end of the year, the way the Aam Aadmi Party emerged, all the socio-political movements became political at some point of time.
The transformation of a movement into a party is the interesting part.
Right.
And in my view, it has 2 components. One is what concerns the Aam Aadmi Party and what it means for the rest of the party system, the lessons that they would draw. And the other thing is that this transformation, this transition is not yet complete because it is a beginning in one major city in the capital.
Right.
It has still to expand, it has still to extend itself, because you talked about 2014. 2014 is going to be the grand battle
Yes.
of competing coalitions.
Right.
Now, where will the Aam Aadmi
Figure in this scheme
figure
of
in
things.
this? So, I think its real impact on the party system is yet to come.
Right. Nilotpal, do you agree that Aam Aadmi Party has changed the political paradigm of this country, at least in Delhi, and we will see and wait and watch how the impact of its new way of working, its new political experiments will affect in other parts of the country. But do you agree that it has significantly made a difference to politics in this country?
I think the introduction you were giving is slightly contradictory in the sense that the mainstream media intended to look at the Indian political process as a bipolar one,
Yes.
even though very clearly it was multipolar from the outset. And the battle royal, so-called, between what has come to be known as Namo and Raga is just non-existent. Because what
So you think you think that's a media creation?
that is a media creation, because it is very, very clear from earlier trends also that the combined vote of Congress and the BJP is coming down. And Delhi election has proved decisively at that though these 4 states which went to the assembly elections were essentially bipolar traditionally, the first opportunity that people got of what they perceived as a credible alternative, they embraced it. And that is
You think that is where the key lies?
That is the impetus behind the ascent of the Aam Aadmi Party. The other point is that, you see, I am neither really critical of the Aam Aadmi Party, nor I am really for rushing into concluding too much at this stage, because I think they are in a transition.
Right.
They from
They are not
transforming
transition, they are in
themselves
process of evolution actually.
from a civil society movement to a political party. Now, essential difference between the two is very clear. A civil society movement essentially points accusing fingers, asks questions, makes criticism. But whereas the political party, while doing all these, also has to be accountable, also has to be answerable for itself. Now, how well the Aam Aadmi Party can graduate from the one to the other is something to be seen. We do not know about its policy perspective.
Fine.
So
That
we
is
should wait
fine.
for that.
Your skepticism as a politician belonging to a different political parties is very understandable. Vinod, let us look at the other major event in this country which happened in 2013. That is the anointment of Narendra Modi as the prime ministerial candidate. Yeah, Nilotpal, obviously, Nilotpal thinks that this bipolar polity which the media has tried to project is not really the case, because he very interestingly he says that the emergence of Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi is an indication that there is scope for a third force.
Well, yes and no. That there was always a scope for a third force, we know, because historically third fronts have ruled this country. Though their tenure in power has been abysmally short, and their performance too has raised eyebrows as though whether third front is a good experiment for efficient governance. But that's a different debate altogether. With all respect for Nilotpal, my friend, and the left parties for whom I have great regard, I think that the rise of the Aam Aadmi Party actually is a kind of defeat for the left forces, because the issues on which they rose and the issues on which they captured popular imagination were the issues that were always espoused by the left parties.
Absolutely.
And they had the best credentials to adopt those issues, to patent those issues going to the people.
Right.
So I think that is where the big question mark is there before traditional third front parties, which were traditionally led. I mean, third fronts have always been led in terms of policy parameters, in terms of guidance, in terms of even leadership.
Vinod, Vinod, I think you have made an interesting point. Let me get Nilotpal back on this because I want him to answer this. Do you agree with Vinod that this is actually a reflection of the failure of the left parties to have captured the imagination of the people the way the Aam Aadmi Party did, because they're raising all the issues which you people were raising, which was seen as your issues.
I will also reply in terms of Vinod's own expressions, yes and no. Yes, but our self-critical appraisal about ourselves is that we need to do things which we are unable to do. That has nothing to do with the emergence of the Aam Aadmi Party. But where I will really very categorically disagree with Vinod, that it will be wrong to say that the Aam Aadmi Party is somewhat of a left force, in the sense that you see the left has.
No, he is not saying it's a left force. He is saying that they are raising. I don't think the Aam Aadmi Party itself would like to see itself as a left force.
I think if you look at the campaign of the Aam Aadmi Party for the last 6 or 8 months, yes, they have raised issues. Yes, some of these issues are reflecting the concerns of some of the common people.
Right.
But at the same time, there were issues on which they did not articulate. I mean, which needed to be articulated and which any socially aware force would do.
Again, as I said earlier, your skepticism on this is understandable, being of a different party. Vinod, I want to come back to you. Let us focus now on Narendra Modi. The emergence of Narendra Modi, unambiguously as the prime ministerial candidate of the BJP. You think that this is something which has, which is going to be the defining thing as far as the 2014 elections is concerned, and that is what is going to, every other political party will have to shape its strategies according to that.
Well, I think that Narendra Modi, insofar as his impact on the airwaves, in the buzz in the cities is concerned, yes, of course, Modi indeed is the buzzword. But how much of this buzz will translate on the ground, especially in states that have never seen the face of the BJP, where the BJP lacks a base, where they lack cadres, and where they have always tried to ride piggyback over regional parties. What will be the outcome there in those states? If you notice that in Tamil Nadu, despite all the propaganda that the BJP exposed us to, that there was a great equation between Jayalalitha and Narendra Modi. Jayalalitha is very much in the picture today as prime ministerial candidate. So the next election, the next coalition may not see the prime minister from the single largest party that is part of the coalition.
Okay, I mean,
let us see from the second largest party.
Vinod will not go into that, who will be the prime minister candidate. We are looking too much ahead. Let us confine to 2013 this year, the emergence of Narendra Modi, how it has affected the political dynamics in this country. I'll come back to you, Professor Balveer Arora. Do you agree that it has affected, some would say positively, some would say negatively, the emergence of Narendra Modi as the prime ministerial candidate?
It has certainly galvanized the BJP.
Right.
Now, I don't see an evidence of a wave, and I think Narendra Modi is going around the country, notably Uttar Pradesh, raising again questions of Ram Janmabhoomi and temple and so on. But I think the bigger issue, which whether he will be able to capture the imagination of the youth, because I think the point that we are trying to understand is the kind of challenge that is posed by this on two things. One is the theory that youth is not interested in politics, that it is depoliticized, that it is
that has been at least as far as Delhi elections are concerned, that aspect has been settled now.
Yes, no, and in all the states, the percentage of voting indicates that the youth is involved. Now, you are right in saying that their enthusiasm normally, and we will see this in states where the left parties are present, whether they are able to capture this new enthusiasm, because Here you had a third alternative, but where it's a straight contest between the left and other parties, we'll have to see.
Which are confined to two states, essentially West Bengal and
But I think the point
Kerala?
that I want to make here is that what is how the parties, what the challenge that they face is how they reorient their strategies
No, that
to
is- no,
meet
that is
the
fine.
youth.
I
don't think Modi has a strategy for that.
you don't think Modi has a strategy as far as youths are concerned?
Yes.
I think Modi's emergence.
No, do you agree with me, Professor Arora, that the BJP in fact is focusing a lot on the, if you see some of the opinion polls and you will see that even in the elections held in the assemblies recently, you saw the 18 to 35 age group, they were more with the BJP than with the Congress or other parties.
I think again this will be too simplistic. What I think that they may be focusing on the youth, but that is incidental. What is more fundamental to the emergence of Modi and the catapulting of Modi to spearhead the BJP campaign is actually a response not only of the BJP, but Indian corporate sector as a whole, who are in crisis, who thinks that the old goody-goody type of neoliberal policies is not going to serve their interest in these times of crisis. So, they want somebody more aggressive, who is absolutely pursuing the same agenda as Manmohan Singh in the state of Gujarat, and that coupled with the enthusiasm of the Hindutva brigade, so to say. So, Modi will try to pose himself as an astute, pro-corporate, industry-friendly personality,
Okay.
whereas the Hindutva forces, as we have seen in Muzaffarnagar, and they will try this out in UP and Bihar. Because
what they will try out is, we will wait for Vinod. Vinod Sharma has joined us now. Vinod, what both Professor Arora and Nilotpal are saying about Modi. My question is that it's what Nilotpal says is about the corporate support to the Narendra Modi campaign and all that. But the fact of the matter is, on the ground, among the youths, he's been cutting across all these barriers in getting support. We have seen this happening.
If you just for a moment, I will ask Vinod to answer this. But you see, even the election results, except for Rajasthan, where there is some grey area, but both in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, commentators across the board have credited them more to the personality of the
respective chief ministers. Okay, yes.
No, I think that Modi.
Can we undermine the emergence and the strong, everywhere in the country, the way he has emerged as an alternative to the existing government?
Yeah, you see, the point is that he has made an impact. That's one. Let's accept that.
Yes.
And the impact that he has made is on account of three reasons. That his arrival on the scene is the assertion of the religious right. It's also the assertion of the economic right.
Right.
And it's an assertion of the political right.
Right.
Now he is getting his little support on all these fronts. There is indeed a well-defined constituency even amongst the youth, which can be defined as religious right. Of course, the economic right is the powerful thing.
Yeah, in all these three categories, you said.
The corporate
in
support
all the three
has.
categories,
Never before in the history of India, at least in my memory, and I would love to be corrected if I am wrong by people like Professor Arora, but I have not seen this kind of a support upfront by the corporate sector for any individual leader. I have not seen it till now. And insofar as the political right is concerned, political right was a bit unsure of him initially. But what exactly is his strength is also his shortcoming. Because in coalition politics, as he has been showcased as a strong prime minister, without any evidence of the strength, the demonstration of strength, which can be comparable with Indira Gandhi, for instance, who led this country into war. It was a demonstration of strength. She abolished privy purses, demolished.
He has not got an opportunity to do any of these things.
So he has been showcased as a strong prime minister without empirical evidence.
No, that's okay.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
so there has been no intellectual riposte delivered to him either by the Congress or by the left. Left tried to set up an ideological rebuff to him by bringing together briefly those political parties on the same stage. That hasn't seen the light of the day thereafter.
In fact, that has been one of the lows, if you want to say, as far as Indian politics is concerned, that both the left parties and the Congress have not been able to tackle the emergence of Narendra Modi in the manner that they could have.
The political discourse has not been balanced. Insofar as Modi is concerned.
No, Professor Arora, my question is this: he raised an issue about Narendra Modi. Supports the allies. You also spoke about the coalition politics era, the coalition era. Competing coalition era. But the fact of the matter is that Nitish Kumar went out of the NDA coalition because, specifically stating that, we don't accept this. But very interestingly, DMK has shown inclination towards the BJP led by Narendra Modi. So this realignment of political forces is something which is a possibility, right?
Well, no, I think there are two things here. DMK is making some noises, but it's little too early. But I think I'd like to respond to Vinod's, how does one explain the newfound love of the corporates for Modi? Let me say quite clearly that corporates love strong governments, strong rulers. They don't care whether they are democratic or not.
And whether
they don't care whether they
right.
are secular or not. As long as they get their decisions, they are pro-strong government. Now that brings me to the second question.
Perception of a strong government, actually.
Perception of a strong government, if the man can deliver, they don't care how many people he tramples, what minorities he sets aside. They are not bothered as long as the license.
And that has been in evidence this year.
That has been a global phenomenon. Corporates have always come close to fascist regimes. They have been very happy because you don't have to deal with labor, you don't have to deal with anything.
Right.
Now, the point that you are making is this competing coalitions. Now, here, Modi is an authoritarian leader. He would like to shape the party in his image.
Right. They are very clear about it. 272 is their
their target.
Their target.
But in the process, how he manages intra-party differences, because let's not forget.
We will.
Just one last thing.
Yes.
That when he has to handle allies, whether it be Karunanidhi or Amma or anyone.
We are looking forward. We are not looking. I don't want to look forward. I want to see what has happened now. This year, what happened is that the fact, Nilotpal, is that Nitish Kumar walked out, but still, as the year ends, there are hopes for the BJP. So you think that parties like you, which have been talking of secularism, bringing secular forces together, this is the real challenge which you have faced?
No, I think the secular platform that we tried to create is inherently much more credible, because you see that Congress has been talking about Modi and Hindutva.
Inherently, theoretically credible, but where is it as far as the practical aspect is concerned?
Because already Congress has proved to be unequal to the task of stopping the BJP rampage insofar as the assembly elections are concerned.
No, but how has the left been able to do anything about
this?
Left
in the past also, you see, wherever BJP has lost out on regional allies, that is because of the major intervention by the left. And now, everywhere physically the left may not have been present, but you will see that left as a cementing force, as
an idea,
as a credible force.
You think as an idea,
whose association has actually strengthened the process of secular polity and secular intervention.
Okay, Vinod, let us keep the left aside for a moment. Let us look at the other parties. Now, for instance, I want you to, the Karunanidhi phenomenon. We have seen this has happened in 1999 when all of us thought that these third front parties will not gravitate towards the BJP. Yeah. You see the same thing happening here. This is at the end of the year you see this kind of statements coming. So we need to keep all our eyes and ears open and options open?
Mr. Karnanidhi, who has been the example, whose family has been the worst example of family profligacy in Indian politics, is now trying to be, and nobody is questioning him actually. It's really the irony, because little lies everywhere. Nobody is questioning his claims, and he says that, oh, he's too upset the way he was treated during the 2G investigations and the way the Congress image is down in the dumps. Now, I don't know, but it's the case of kettle calling the pot black, but Mr. Karnanidhi shocked me when he supported Vajpayee's government. But this time he'd be shocking me more, because this time if he supports, he'd be supporting a Narendra Modi government. So where is that Dravidian culture? Where is that rationalist approach? The point is that he is looking for a shoulder on which he can lean.
So that
because his family is facing investigations.
So that means Vinod, what I'm trying to ask is, that means that this presumption that a leader like Narendra Modi, who is authoritarian, autocratic.
The presumption is the presumption is in the case of three major formations.
Yes.
Presumption is the case of Mamata Banerjee, who has earlier cohabited with the BJP,
right,
but cannot afford to do it again because she has to contest assembly elections after the 2014 elections. Same applies to Mulayam Singh. Same applies to Mayawati.
So Vinod, I'm looking at this year. I'm looking at what happened this year. At the end of the year, we see these signs of parties whom we normally thought will not gravitate towards BJP showing signs of gravity.
Because this is because of the perceived decline of the Congress.
Perceived decline of the Congress. So perceived decline of the Congress. When the year started, we are running out of time very quickly. When the year started, Rahul Gandhi was seen as a person who can rejuvenate the Congress. Do you think he has been able to do that at the end of the year, when you look at it at the end of the year?
I think in the balance sheet, what we need at the moment and what it clearly shows this year is that the Congress has an uphill task. It's not out beyond its reach, but it has to totally reinvent itself and learn these.
Left, do you think the left, what is it in 2013 that you in the left parties can look up to and say that, okay, this was some high as far as our thing is concerned?
See,
because we only see
before 2009 we were totally misunderstood and also isolated. But today, I mean, electorally we will have to see, because we think that we will do much better than 2009. But what we have been able to do is to face up to challenge of this, not just rise of Narendra Modi, but the communal polarization that has taken place throughout 2013.
You think that you have been able to face up to it and still stand?
And we have been able to gather forces.
Okay, with that we will wait.
Yes, I think that
very quickly, Vinod,
I know many a times when
when you think of 2013, forget all this. When you think of 2013, what have been, according to you, the highest point in Indian politics and the lowest point in Indian
politics? Highest point in Indian politics is the stirring up of the civil society,
right,
and the channelization of its energies into a political movement,
right,
which is yet to take shape fully.
Okay.
And the lowest point, in my view, was the decline of the Congress and also the marginalization of the left. I think the left remains still, regardless of its state of affairs, the single biggest moral authority in Indian politics.
Okay.
They have the credibility to marshal people around them, and I hope they do it as quickly as possible.
Okay, on that positive note for Nilotpal, Basu, but the fact is that, as Vinod rightly pointed out, the channelization, the social movements into politics has been the high of Indian politics, and the low is the way the Congress has seen itself at the end of the year at its lowest point. Thanks to all my guests, Vinod Sharma, Nilotpal Basu and Balveer Arora. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue in Big Picture same time tomorrow.